Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today we've got great news about a new Pokémon TCG expansion coming out in Japan, and this is awesome. And if anybody's wondering, yes, unfortunately, it's slightly later than it should have been because I was traveling. Sorry about that. But we're here now, and we can have a good old chat about Paradise Dragona, which, of course, is a set we knew was coming. I told you about the trademark that was filed a little while ago. I told you it was going to be a new Pokemon TCG set, and it totally is. It is currently scheduled for release on the 13th of September, and it is, frankly, seems like it's worth getting excited about. And it is a dragon set. And there's enough here to go, are they going dragon? But it's not quite as dragony yet as we might have hoped. But starting off, we do have an Alolan Exeggutor we need to talk about here that is potentially absolutely nuts. So we've got 300 HP as a stage 1, which is high, and no weakness, because it's a dragon Pokemon. So 300 HP, no weakness, great start. We've got grass and water, 150, and you may attach any number of basic energy from your hand to your Pokemon in any way that you like. We've seen attacks like this in the past, but I think the difference here is you're doing 150 damage. And 150 doesn't really KO like anything. It doesn't even get a Luminion, often my, low baseline here. But it will get single prize Pokemon, which is a start. And it will 2-hit KO most things. Not quite everything, but it will 2-hit KO most things here. While you're accelerating a whole bunch of energy, and I think that's frankly brilliant. Go using, aggressively stuff like Earthen Vessel, for instance. Try and get all of that energy and attach it as much as you can. Get set up for the future. Because then we get the really fun one. Grass, water, fighting. Flip a coin, if heads, KO your opponent's active if it's a basic Pokemon. If tails, KO one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon. And the thing is, sometimes this is going to be absolutely nutty good, and sometimes it's going to be slightly disappointing. Because, for instance, if you're against something like Raging Bolt, then they're going to be playing Raging Bolt and they're going to be playing Teal Mask Ogapon, and not that much else. So they're probably going to attack with Raging Bolt. If you flip heads, you KO it. If you flip tails, you still get a 2-prize KO on their benched Teal Mask Ogapon, and it's free energy, guaranteed 2 prizes, jobs are good 'un. The issue comes in when you end up with a bunch of decks that don't have an active basic Pokemon. Flipping tails is almost always going to be phenomenal, because there's usually going to be a 2-prize Pokemon on the bench. For most decks there is. The issue here comes in where you flip heads and there's not a basic in the active, and that's what gives me a little bit of pause here. The fact that it's not perfect. I love it. It's great. But there is an element here of, well, there's too many decks that won't have an active basic Pokemon, and that means you're trying to rely on flipping tails, and that could be an issue. As a side note, yes, Mist Energy will stop the KO here because it is an automatic KO, and that is quite important. The other thing we need to mention here is that we actually have an Execute, which is really good. It's got an attack that you can use even if it's your first turn and you're going first. Search the deck for a Pokemon that evolves from this Pokemon and put it on this Pokemon to evolve it, and then shuffle your deck. Single colorless energy. Love this because it means that if you start with this, you're going to get the evolution, which is lovely. Issue then becomes, well, what about the others? Like, you're still having to bench 30 HP Pokemon and evolve them later. That's not ideal. Sorry about that. But hey, there's at least one nice handy bonus coming in here, and that's kind of a win. And we do have to talk about the energy here. The energy cost is super awkward. Yes, we do have that lovely new tool that came around in Stellar Miracle, your Sparkling Crystal, that will reduce the attack cost by 1, which is lovely. But by the same token, that's kind of like an A-spec, and it's once per game, and it's not exactly ideal. So you are going to struggle a bit with the energy. The fact that you've got 300 HP and effectively no weakness is a massive win, but the energy could be a little bit of a problem. So could coming up against decks that are attacking with non-basic Pokemon. But make no mistake about it, oh, this is awesome. There is so much here that we can start getting very, very, very excited about. I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 Wassies. I think there is a lot of potential coming in here. But it's not the only card we can talk about. There's actually a new A-Spec. It is Affluent Energy. And what we've got here is a colorless energy. It counts as a colorless energy. But when you attach this card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you draw 4 cards. Remember, supporter cards, Pokemon won't let us draw 4. There's a pretty hard and fast rule that they'll only let us draw 3 cards, unless there's, some extra wave, some extra hoop you've got to jump through. So being able to draw 4 when you attach, clearly absolutely brilliant. My issue here is just in terms of it's got so much competition. Like, you look at a really fancy new special energy and you're like, oh, feels like that might be good in Lugia decks. Well, no, because it doesn't work if you attach it from the deck using Archeops. And also, Lugia clearly is going to play Legacy Energy instead, because that means you don't give up a prize, or you give up one less prize. So you're definitely going to want Legacy Energy instead. So, yeah. I do think this is a really good option, and I do think it's nice to have this and also have draw, and I think that's awesome. But I really do worry with this one about where it actually comes in. What deck is really going to want to play it? Because a lot of decks that are willing to play a special energy as an A-Spec are going to want to go and play Legacy Energy. And drawing 4 is nice, but is it really good enough to turn down something like Legacy Energy? I'm not sure it is. I'm going to give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I don't think this is a bad card. I think this is a fine card. But I don't know who's going to really want to play it. We got enough good A-Specs around at the moment that I think it might just be outclassed. Now, there is another new EX we need to talk about here. It is Latias EX. The attack is kind of meh. 3 energy, 200, can't attack next turn. Not a fan of this, frankly. Don't think this is particularly good. Because, I look at this and I'm like, okay, so how am I getting the 3 energy onto this basic Pokemon easily? Oh, well, I can use Gardevoir. Gardevoir's got better attackers. Gardevoir doesn't need this. So, I'm not sure this is a particularly good attacker. But it does just have an ability which is just sitting there always on, no downside, which just says your basic Pokemon have free retreat. And there we go. And that's essentially the answer here. It is as simple as that. You get an ability which gives all of your basic Pokemon free retreat. And sure, it's a 2-prize Pokemon that sits on the bench and can be gusted up and KO'd, but there's a million of them right now, like Luminion I've mentioned, which sees a lot of play. If you're playing a basic deck, having just free retreat for all of your Pokemon all the time, yeah, that's clearly phenomenal. That's clearly a redonkulous ability, and it's one of these, I don't know if it's going to see any play for the attack, but I think you look at the ability and you're like, oh yeah, no, I get that. That's clearly very, 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 very good. And it does say, while this Pokemon is in play, your basic Pokemon, all of them, have free retreat. So that means that it itself does also have free retreat, which is awesome. So it's got free retreat and it gives your others free retreat, and yeah, this could be really fun. Remember, things like Terrapagos is a basic Pokemon, so feels like Terrapagos might want to use this a little bit. Because you're going to be filling up your bench anyway with Terrapagos, so fill up your bench and have something that gives free retreat. Sounds like a plan. There is also, though, a kind of a fun interaction here, in that if everyone's running around getting free retreat, then people might play fewer switching cards, so actually Snorlax might become much better. So do keep an eye out for Snorlax coming in quite cheekily here. Either way, I'm giving this between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Really not a fan of the attack. but the ability's so good I don't really care. And that means we can finish off with a nice little item card here, Dragon Medicine. Finishing off with a dragon card just seems pretty appropriate. And what it does is it heals 60 damage from your active dragon Pokemon. Cool. If you have an active dragon Pokemon, you play this and it heals 60 from it. It's really nice. Healing 60 is good. And I think it actually works really, really nicely with Alolan Exeggutor because it's a dragon Pokemon, but also 300 HP and no weakness. Then you're going and healing 60 damage from it as well. I just think that could end up being really good. Really depends on how the metagame shakes up, I'll be honest with you. But I've already mentioned Raging Bolt, which is a dragon Pokemon. If you're not one-hit KO'd, this could be awesome. And it's very pedantic, but it's basically, if we have a lot of dragon Pokemon that aren't getting one-hit KO, this is brilliant. Bearing in mind they don't have weakness, so they are less likely to be one-hit KO'd. It could end up being a dud, but I'm still giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. But I don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric, because I think there is potential here. But I've told you about the potential of all of these cards, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these. Tell me how excited you are. Tell me if you think Alolan Exeggutor could be great. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.